Alright guys, welcome back to another video. And today I'm gonna start us off by talking about a quote that I heard from First Man. He said, "Don't be afraid of what motivates you." And it's a really good quote. I mean, it sounds very sort of badass to say, but there's a real truth behind it as well. And the example he used was when he was young. He was really motivated to be rich because he wanted like a fancy car and all the kind of materialistic stuff. And now he's in a position where he is rich and he's not so interested in that stuff because he realizes he's got it, he can get it, but he realizes it's quite shallow, that kind of stuff. I know there's more depth to life than that. However, if he hadn't been motivated by that initially, he had never got started in the first place. And this is something that I see quite a lot, of the idea of burning off negative emotion, some kind of unsustainable resource. Chris Williamson said it a lot about his nightclub business, that what really motivated him to be good in that industry was social validation, something they'd never got at school, and he found that he could, basically everyone wanted him if he was working in this nightclub, because they needed him to get entry to the clubs, and he said that was a bad thing because it's not really giving you the kind of wants, the kind of needs that people have of you. It's not like something deep and purposeful. And he says when he started becoming a podcaster, life was much better because he now had there was something deeper, more innate part of him that was motivating him, which was, I don't know, curiosity or whatever. And Alex Hormozy said this as well. He said a big part of his success initially was just kind of wanting to prove his dad wrong, that he could do something with his life, hatred, anger, that kind of thing is what really got him going and galvanized him into making a change in his life. And Hamza as well said a similar thing, that a big part of finding a purpose is just, you'll do one thing and then when you finish that thing, it's like you'll sort of change. But so anyways, it's a very developed concept. There's like a lot of people have spoken about it, that you can be motivated by something in the short term that is bad, but in the long term it gets you to where you want to be, and then you can change your motivation to something else. So far so good, right? And I see this as being a bit like how a country will become developed. So, and have sort of modern technology, basically. So a lot of these countries, like take the United Kingdom for example, you had cities, but like a lot of the economy was, like people lived in a lot more villages, farming communities, stuff like that. Then you get the Industrial Revolution, lots of people move into towns to work, to produce stuff, and lots of technology is made in this period. However, the sort of thing they're using is we now know is an unsustainable fuel. It's coal, it's oil or whatever, stuff that's a finite resource and is terrible for the environment. However, that does get the UK from A to B, because all that disgusting coal galvanizes all this economic growth, and now the UK is in a position where it's an incredibly wealthy country. And now it can use that wealth that it has to switch over from unsustainable resources like coal and oil and whatever to sustainable resources like electric cars, nuclear, wind, whatever. Everyone knows this, right? And you can see the same thing in lower income countries where they don't have that privilege, right? They don't have the money to invest in coal, in nuclear power, or in electric cars, or any of this stuff. So they have no choice but to use unsustainable sources of energy like coal and gas and everything. Look at India and China, you know. So what's clear from this analogy is that coal and unsustainable sources of fuel is not long term. It hasn't got longevity, and you need to switch over because it's going to run out anyway, and it's going to destroy the planet if you just use it with impunity, right? So I think a similar thing is going on here with these entrepreneurs, I guess, that I've talked about, who say they started with quite a negative emotion, and that got them to where they wanted to be, and then they were able to improve their life by switching to a cleaner source of motivation. So to take the example of Chris Williamson, his drive for being a nightclub presenter, or nightclub promoter, was he wanted to be accepted and loved. He wanted to cheap, so the sort of coal, if you will, the unsustainable energy source is social validation, desire for social validation, and then he gets it, but then he thinks, oh shit, this isn't working out so well, but now I'm in a position where I'm running a successful nightclub business, and I can change my motivation, and then he moves on to a cleaner source of energy from, his curiosity for the world, let's say, and then he becomes a podcast host. So the point I'm getting at here is, don't be afraid of your negative emotions and things that motivate you, because they're incredibly cheap. It's a cheap source of fuel, basically, if you galvanise it. And it might not get you all the way, which is why people sort of recommend against this. We see these emotions as negative, but it's a cheap source of fuel, but it will get you very far, very quickly. So I think the thing is, you just got to bear in mind that it's a good source of fuel in the relative short term, and when you get to where you want to go initially, you'll find you can tap into a more positive source of fuel that are more sustainable for a good life. But maybe you need that fuel in the first place. I mean, these videos to get to where you want to be, right? I mean, even these videos, I'd love to say I'm doing it all out of the goodness of my own heart. Truth is, there's probably a bit of vanity, I guess. I don't know if vanity is the right word, but I like being listened to, and YouTube gives you a platform where people can listen to what you have to say and interact with it, and I like that. But good things have come of it. Now, you can take that too far. Of course you can. But I think the way I see it is, as long as you have a guiding star of understanding that you can't rely on that resource forever, then you can actually get very positive things out of galvanising negative emotion. So I hope this video makes sense. I'll be interested to know if people disagree, because I guess the problem with this concept that I'm putting forward is what happens if you never switch over, you know. And I'm sure we can all think of people like that, you know, who are just motivated by greed and hatred for their whole life, and you know, they never switch over to a cleaner resource, even though these people are very productive. You know, like millionaires, or you know, like as a millionaire who's very greedy, like we've all got that archetype in our head. Or you know, a politician or political leader who's motivated by hatred for a particular race or social class or whatever. You know, like in a sense, you've got to be quite productive to run a country, but what happens? Lots of bad things happen when you're still running on that negative emotion later on in the game. So anyway, I hope this makes sense, and I'll speak to you guys soon.